Rachel, how you doing? Are you good?
I wish this were my big bellies instead
Oh, I'm ready whenever you are.
Get going.
I must have amnesia.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 16th, 2017 regular council meeting for the City of Brook Park. I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Scott?
Here.
Bergio? Here. Salvatore?
Here.
Troyer?
Here.
Powers?
Here.
McDonald? Here. Mancini?
Here.
Would everyone please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to item C on the agenda, which is approval of minutes of the preceding meetings. Number one we have is the revised regular council meeting that was held on October 4th, 2016.
Motion to approve those minutes, October 4th. Support.
There's a motion to approve, properly supported. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Abstain.
Okay, the council meeting minutes for October 4th, 2016 have been adopted. Item number two is a special council meeting that was held on March 28th, 2017.
Motion to approve those March 28th meeting minutes. Support.
There's been a motion to approve. It's been properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, clerk please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
McDonald?
Abstain.
Scott? Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
The meeting minutes for March 28th, 2017 have been adopted. We moved to item number three, which is the regular council meeting that was held on April 4th, 2017.
Motion to approve them April 4th meeting minutes.
Tough to get that out, huh, Councilman?
It's getting tough as we go along here tonight.
Okay, is there support? Okay, they've been properly supported. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Councilman Bergio.
thank you. I just see one omission on page 4 would be, it doesn't say page 4, but I think it is page 4. About in the middle. It says motion by Mrs. Salvatore, supported by Mr. Scott to suspend, and on roll call, Councilman Scott's name is missing. So it should be inserted in there. Other than that, that's the only mistake I see in there.
Okay, can you point to it again, Councilman?
Yeah, it's right about in the middle of the page, the second roll call.
The motion by Troyer, supported by Salvatore to adopt. Is that the one?
And supported by Salvatore, Mr. Scott to suspend.
On page 4, that
It's right after page 3. It's not marked.
Right, right, I got that. It's just which one, you know, it's under resolution number 9-2017.
Yeah, it's the one right above that one that you just mentioned. It says roll call.
Oh, here. No? Oh, okay. I found it.
What do you see?
It should be, this is motion by Mr. Salvatore, supported by Mr. Scott. I have Salvatore Bergio, and then it went on.
That's it.
So
Typo.
that's where it is. Just a typo, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll get it fixed.
that's all. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman.
I'll support that. Is that going to be just
We'll just correct
We're
that.
just gonna correct it, yeah.
Okay, with that correction then, ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Mancini?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Powers?
yes.
McDonald?
Abstain.
Scott? Bergio?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Okay, April 4th, 2017 regular council meeting minutes have been adopted. We move to item number 4, which is a special council meeting that was held on April 11th, 2017.
Motion to approve those April 11th council meeting minutes.
That was your last chance for tonight,
I'm going to
Councilman.
start working on it after the meetings.
Is there support for that motion?
Support.
Okay, any discussion on these minutes? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Abstain.
McDonald,
Abstain.
Okay, the meeting minutes for April 11th, 2017 have been adopted. That concludes the items under letter C. We'll move to letter D, which is reports of standing committees. We'll go to Aviation and Environmental. Councilwoman Powers.
I have nothing on the agenda tonight, and I would just like to remind people that since spring is here and people are going to be working in their yards, just remember that we need all those little insects and we need the birds and the butterflies. So be very careful about what you're putting on your lawns, that you don't kill all the things that we need. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the Finance Committee. Co-Chairman Troyer.
Thank you, Council President. Finance Committee has one item. It's catchy. Finance Committee has one item on tonight's agenda. That's the end of my report.
Thank you. We'll go to Legislative Committee. Stay with you, Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Legislative Committee has one item also on tonight's agenda, and I'd like to mention again that there's a few items that have been in my committee for a few weeks. Anybody would like them pulled out, please send me an email or contact the council clerk, and she will send me an email, and I will pull them out. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go to Parks and Recreation Committee. Councilman Mancini.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I'd like to welcome everybody for coming out tonight. Beautiful night to get out. Glad to see you here. I'd like to welcome my colleague, Mr. Salvatore, back. Glad you're back, Rick. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. These will be the minutes for the Recreation Department here for the past 2 weeks. We also have our Rec Director, Mary Ann Fields, here tonight, so I got to do this right or I'll be disciplined tomorrow. Okay? So the Best of Brook Park ceremony was held Tuesday, May 4th at Boss Pro Kart facility. Congratulations to our nominees, Tom Sensel, Chris Green. Actually, there was a few others that were got the Best of Brook Park. It's a nice little ceremony. We do it every year, and we try to honor, a lot of people who do outstanding things within the community. So, next year when you see them nominations, when you're going through City Hall, maybe the rec center, or you get an idea of your head of a neighbor or a coach or somebody doing very good within the community, let us know, let City Hall know. The youth tennis started on Saturday, May 6th, just this past Saturday. I had a couple practices early in the morning. It was nice to see Kennedy Park and seeing them tennis kids. There was a lot of them over there. Looks like it's going to be a pretty good little program. Our senior bocce ball league started Tuesday, May 9th, right out there on Kennedy. I believe that's Tuesday mornings. They get a nice little crowd over there. Wednesday, May 10th, started our junior golf program. Also, May 10th was the start of our men's softball league. Okay, so that they're already hitting the ball already. Wednesday, May 10th, in collaboration with Officer Kaz, the Brook Park Police Department, Ford Elementary School, we have a bike safety training with 75 participants, and they're all receiving brand-new helmets. The adult youth co-ed softball started their season Friday, May 12th. All youth baseball and softball teams, if you haven't seen as you drove up here today, we're practicing. I was over at Kennedy. They're all out. Okay, so we got all our programs going, which is great to see. Pretty soon the leagues will be starting. That'll kick off on Tuesday, May 30th. Monday, May 15th, in collaboration with Officer Kaz again in the police department, will be the Click It or Ticket event. I'll remind everyone to wear their seatbelts, okay, and probably stay off the phones and don't be texting when you're driving. So you might want to notice the spring rock in front of the Recreation Center, designed and signed by all the officers that participated in the Click It or Ticket program that we just discussed. This rock will be available for teams in the community organizations to apply to decorate, design the rock, to acknowledge accomplishments and or upcoming events. This is a big one here. The Memorial Day Parade is Monday, May 29th. It'll start at 10 a.m. at the Brookgate Shopping Center and then right over here at John F. Kennedy Memorial. We'd love to see everybody out there. I know we're trying to inform everybody to get everybody out there, and it shouldn't be a matter of, having to remind you, it's honor our veterans and our people fighting right now, our young men and women, and so we'll hope to see everybody there on May 29th, Monday, at somewhere in the parade route or maybe at Kennedy. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilman. We'll move to the Planning Committee. Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Council President. Planning Committee has one item on tonight's agenda. We did have a special Planning Commission meeting yesterday. I would say, could even say emergency meeting. There's an item under J, which we hope to get put under M, first reading M5, I believe it would be. What this is approving a lot split and a consolidation. So basically, there's two lots, and there's a house on one, and there's a little partial in there that used to be a street, and that partial is now part of the house lot. We need to take that out of that lot so they can, out of that partial, out of that house, and then make it so they could sell that house, and then they still have that partial left over to go with the other land that's there. That'll be more usable. And what this does is it gives them access to that land in the back. That's the biggest issue. It's out by Lucille and at Switzer, if anybody's familiar with that area. So it's very important to get this done so they can get this house sold because they have a deadline. We'll get a new family in there, and then we have a piece of property that's marketable. So that'll be on the other communications and petitions and verbal approval, introduction of new legislation under J, and then hopefully we'll put it under M. It'll be under M5, and hopefully we'll suspend on that and get that done today so we can get a new family here in Brook Park. The rest of the deal's all done. We just have to do this, and the house can be sold, and the agreement concluded, paperwork done, as Mr. Salvatore knows, at houses, and Mr. Bergio, and then the family can have their new house and move in. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move to the Safety Committee. Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Safety Committee does not have legislation on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the Service Committee. Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Service Committee has 5 items on the agenda tonight.
Thank you.
That's 4 items.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Board of Zoning Appeals. Councilman Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Board of Zoning has nothing to report today, but if I may continue, I'd like to make an announcement about Citizen of the Year.
Go ahead.
Like Mr. Mancini said, May 4th, we had the Best of Brook Park, and the 2017 Brook Park Citizen of the Year Committee selected Tina Barr as the winner of the award. I would like to thank the committee, which consisted of Brian Poindexter, Jacob Vecchio, Kelly Patouche, John Riddell, Patty Astorino, Lisa Schmuck, and Tim Chornek. It was a hard decision, but I'd like to thank them for working diligently and picking out the best candidate. But I just wanted to let people know that Tina Barr was selected as the 2017 Citizen of the Year Committee, and she will be the Grand Marshal for the Home Days Parade. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the items under letter D. We'll move to letter E, which is reports of special committees. We'll go to Southwest General Health Center trustee, Councilman Salvatore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a formal report, but I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the doctors and the nurses that were looking over me last week. They did a great job, and I really felt like I was treated like a king, and I hope everybody who ever has to use that facility, that you get treated the same way as I did. And most importantly, I really want to thank the number of residents that came to see me. The one nurse said, I think you just set a new record on the 4th floor, and that was thanks to the residents of Brook Park, and of course, my family. And other than that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Berea Board of Education Committee, Councilman Bergio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had a long meeting last night, one of the longest that I've seen so far. They're trying to catch up with us, I think, but I don't think they will. Anyway, as yesterday's school board meeting, the board formally recognized 3 students from Middleburg Junior High: Ian Taylor, Abby Lash, Roman Wenzel, and Murphy McKenna, 5th grader at Ford. 3 presentations followed, beginning with Big Creek, as the 4th graders presented the board with their Titan Action News Network and how they work together as a news team and interview staff, teachers, and students and produce a daily morning news show. they're thinking of making it available to the public as well. And here's some applause over there. Somebody must be aware of that. An academic presentation followed with 2 high school students sharing how the science course worked by showing the board in person some examples of how the STEM science and technology course works to solve problems, real life problems, and they come up with ideas and solutions. Last night they showed a water purification project. Another example was to charge a cell phone with no charger on hand. The science course features innovation and technology with professionals in various fields, and they are invited to attend and give feedback and real honest evaluation to the students. They noted several examples and showed the videos of some of their solutions. One of the board members remarked that it was reminiscent of the old television show MacGyver. Not everybody remembers that one, but I do. It shows my age. And in the treasurer's report, he updated as to the 5-year forecast, which the board approved. He cited in his report that due to the continued phase out of the TPP reimbursement from the state of Ohio, the district revenue is projected to continue to decrease through fiscal year 19, with minimal increases in revenue being projected for fiscal year 20 and 21. In order to offset the loss of revenue from the state, address the continued decline in enrollment, and create the most efficient and effective use of current facilities, the district passed a $4.2 million bond levy that will enable the district to commence a school district reconfiguration that will begin in fiscal year 2019. He noted that since fiscal year 14, the district has maintained a balanced budget. And lastly, during the audience participation, Middlebrook Heights resident Steve Dockman announced that he intends to run for the school board in November. There are 3 seats that will be up for election. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. That concludes the items under letter E. We have no items on the agenda for letter F or G, so we'll move to letter H, which is reports and communications from the mayor. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to reiterate what Councilman Mancini reported so briefly, is that we have Memorial Day coming up. Just put a plea out to everybody. Please participate in our Memorial Day service here on Sylvia Drive. You don't have to march or call or ride a bike in the parade, but it would be great to see the citizens of Brook Park come out to the memorial and take a few minutes from your hot dogs and other celebrations to remember why you really have the day off. We'd appreciate it. We're making a big push on this. Carl Bergio is working on it, along with Humana Funeral Homes, and trying to get a flash crowd there and some different. We're securing getting the band, so please show up. Take a few minutes out of your time. While we're on memories, I was not here the meeting that I wanted to address the loss of probably more of the fabric of this community than anyone that I've ever known. And you're probably sick of me and Jim Mancini and Rick Salvatore talking about how long we've been here. But I think it's pretty safe to say that history will show that the passing of William R. Huffsey Sr., not Billy Huffsey, but William R. Huffsey Sr., who is his father. Most of the younger people probably know Billy because of his fame in Hollywood and Las Vegas. But they might not remember that this city, when everyone talks about the wonder years and the melancholic experience of growing up in a very special city, it was largely results of the efforts and the dream of one man, and that was William R. Huffsey Sr. I spent so many of my years in high school in this very room. He started probably every recreation program there was. I drove Jim's mother, Ann, who started the first senior program under Bill Huffsey's recreation department. And I guess if you sum it in a word, what is the Brook Park experience, what it was and what we hope to make it again, it was in the image of Mr. Bill Huffsey. And he was clearly aided in a wonderful woman. If you've been following Facebook lately, and there's most things you don't enjoy on there, but you can certainly enjoy a picture of Joanne Huffsey, and I remind Bill all the time that she was probably the strongest person in the family and was by his side the whole time he was involved in recreation in Brook Park. So he did go through our town. This is the last goodbye before he went to the recreational facility in the sky. And his dream was the building we're talking about, trying to make some improvements in now. And there's another dream that him and John Polony had, and maybe many of you do not know about. We had the first, the largest, and the most progressive recreation center in the United States when it was built in 1972. It was patterned after a town called Midland, Michigan, and it had a big auto plants there as well. And the mayor of that city not only had a recreation department, he bought 2 condominium complexes in Miami, Florida. So that every year, families from Midland, Michigan could go on a raffle, and they'd be able to get a week's vacation in Florida. A true working man's Beverly Hills. And if you hear that phrase, while others may use it, I'm the one that coined it because it was true. And hopefully it will return to that one day. But I just thought I'd be remiss. I didn't get the opportunity to address Bill's family at the service. But I hope that thanks you for your indulgence, and I think it was appropriate to talk about it this evening. So please remember Bill in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, are there any questions to the mayor? Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the chair to the mayor. Mayor, I got out this weekend, I'm kind of hitting the streets a little bit, and just a few things I had heard. One of the bigger things I hear, and I'm sure many people when they get out, will be the speeding. And it wasn't so much Smith and Snow. A lot of it tended to be on a lot of the side streets, so I did want to let you know that. I believe maybe you were out there a little bit too, so maybe you heard that too. The other thing I do want to say, though, is a lot of people did compliment a lot of these guys doing the road work out there and the city workers, and how good, after the flood, how courteous. And, you know, I know it's a little tough on Smith Road and Fry Road at times, and some of these other streets we're doing, but I did hear a lot of people say that, you know, a lot of these guys are going out above and beyond their way to help out a little bit. And I guess maybe a little bit of the question is we gonna just keep going with all these, just keep moving, because they're glad to see some things are getting done. So we're gonna keep going with the streets and things of that sort. So I'm sure you all be hearing it, but maybe that's a question there. Are we gonna keep going the way we're going? That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay, what I've heard, they like the way we're going. They wish we get it done a little bit more conveniently and quicker.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to the mayor. Mayor, I just have a couple, these may seem like old questions, well, maybe because they are, but any update on the Looney Worst property? Are they anywhere close to moving forward over there
Which property is that, Councilman? I did
on
not
Brook
hear.
Park Road there?
Yes, they've signed a lease with the new entity, and they're just waiting for them to move their stuff in there. Ted did send them a letter about some of the cleanup that remains to be done there in the landscaping, so we hope now that we're getting some good weather that they'll get that done as well.
Okay, that would be the white-blue line, but I'm asking about the Looney Worst where the Quonset hut is. They were supposed to start building a new building on the one edge of their lot.
Right, they did
and-
not comply with our timetable, so we are not going to give them that grant. They can be reconsidered for them if they do it. We lost their patience with them, so they're not going to get their grant.
Okay. Is it still on the table for them possibly moving here?
If they come back, Councilman, with a plan, with a timetable that makes sense, we gave them a long time to get it done. I'm not certain whether he really knows what his business plan is, so that's where that's at.
Okay, then on the Sheldon Road Quiet Zone, you said there might be an underpass, you're just looking into something, what's?
Yes, we are working right now with the rail authority, not only looking at a quiet zone, but the possibility of a grade separation at Sheldon and 237. There's a combination of problems with the Eastland crossing, where they'd have to make substantial improvements. So as an alternate, we're looking at that. And if we have a grade separation on the Eastland or the Sheldon 237 crossing, there won't be a need for them to blow a horn anywhere in Brook Park.
That'd be great. And then also, I have one other, on the minutes we just passed, the April 4th, I asked you about if the Economic Development Director can provide monthly reports, and you responded. Everyone will be providing an annual report this week. Mr. Dolan will be coming forward to make a report, yet we still we don't have a report from Mr. Dolan.
We'll get you your report from Mr. Dolan, but we've been trying to coordinate it. He's had some family issues to deal with, so believe me, he's eager to come in and face you.
Okay, thank you.
Council, any other questions to the mayor? Okay, seeing no other questions, we'll move to letter I, which is reports and communications from departments, commissions, and other public officials. We'll go to the city engineer, Mr. Piatek.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple projects to update everyone on tonight. Snow road resurfacing work continues on the outside lanes in Phase 1. That's basically from Fry Road to West 130th. They're doing full depth repairs, partial depth repairs, and catch basin repairs. Also, concrete work continues down near State Route 237. Just as a quick heads up, late this week or early next week, the contractor is going to be performing a repair in Smith at Snow, but it's actually on the Smith side of the roadway. It's a full depth repair. It's going to require a lane closure on Smith. Don't anticipate this closure being more than a day or two, but just as a heads up, there'll be a traffic pattern shift there for a short period of time on Smith. The Brookdale reconstruction project, the third of 4 mainline concrete pours took place yesterday. Concrete came out of cure today. We're doing under drains and aprons later this week. We hope to have those residents back in their driveway by the end of the week, at which point we'll start tearing out the last quadrant of pavement over there. So that project's the light's at the end of the tunnel on that one. And they've also started some landscaping work up on the near West 130th on the high end of the project. So project's moving along. Fry Road reconstruction, mainline pours took place last week on the southbound lanes between Sylvia and Cynthia. We poured concrete aprons on the west side today. Those will be coming out of cure tomorrow, end of tomorrow, the next day, at which point, again, we'll flip over and start tearing out the other side of the road between Sylvia and basically Cynthia. So that project's moving along. The 2016 sidewalk repair program, that continues to be a popular project. Contractors moving in Phase 3 northerly. I'm looking for a mid-June completion date on that project. Lastly, Board of Control approved the contract tonight for the 2017 project. So now we have a contract that was approved. We'll be, Service Department will be putting together the letters to go out to the residents here in the next week or so. So those will be going out here shortly as well. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Piatek. Council, any questions to the engineer? Councilman Mancini?
Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Ed, 2 quick ones real quick if we could. The Fry Road one, I had 2 calls today. Again, I'll state what I said before. People are very happy with the guys doing the work, with, everything going on, speed of the project, and is it an inconvenience? It absolutely is a little bit, but, it comes with the territory when you're tearing a road out and putting a whole new road in, so, most don't seem to have too much of a problem with that, but what are we looking at, like if the weather holds up, kind of like on a completion date over there a little bit? Maybe, I guess, are we still looking like the end of June or, okay?
Yes, I would say we're heading for a mid to end June completion date over there.
Okay, and I got a quick question here. This 2016 sidewalk program, would Mr. Scott's North Gallatin be involved in that? Because I had to go see a resident there the other day, and it seemed like almost every other house was doing it, so obviously it is going pretty good over there. Does that fall under the 2016 program?
Yes. Anything, the 16 program what we've called Phase 3. That's anything basically east of Smith Road, Smith to 130th, north to south. So, yeah, that should be in that Phase 3.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, Ed. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair, the engineer, Mr. Piatek. Our 2017 roads program, is that all still on schedule? It looks like we're still going to get it done.
We're plowing forward here. I would expect to have 2 of the projects out hopefully early next week, next Tuesday. If not, it'll be the following. And then the other 2 projects will be coming out shortly thereafter. So, yeah, we're gonna have a busy summer and fall.
Great, thank you.
Okay, seeing no other questions, thank you, Mr. Piatek. We'll move to the Service Director, Mr. Kayette.
Mr. Chairman, I have no report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kayette. Council, any questions of the Service Director? Got no questions for you either. Good day for you. Okay, then we'll move, since the Safety Director's not here, we'll move to the Law Director, Mrs. Horvath.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. As I previously indicated, we have one pending legal matter. That is a foreclosure in which the city is a party due to a tax lien. We filed our answer in that matter last Friday. There are other parties who still need to file answers or other pleadings, and the case has been assigned to Magistrate Gail Baker. I'll continue to keep council informed on that matter, but I would expect that this particular matter will take quite some time. And other than that, I have no further report.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions to the Law Director? Seeing no questions, we'll move to the Finance Director, Mr. Single.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm currently working on a 2018 tax budget. My hope is to finalize it tomorrow, review it with the mayor, and then ask the mayor to submit it to City Council to hopefully put on the agenda next week under discussion. The tax budget needs to be approved by July 20th to get it down to the county so they can do their work to certify the millage that will be levied for the 2018 tax year. Also, Mr. Chairman, and members of City Council, the audit continues. I expect it to continue for the next 6 weeks, and as always, we'll keep council posted as to the outcome of the audit, and that concludes my report tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Single. Council, any questions to the Finance Director? Councilman Troyer.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair, the Finance Director, Mr. Single. We have legislation on tonight's agenda under first reading, authorizing a change order for the 2016 sidewalk repair program and declaring an emergency to the amount of, it's an additional $65,000. Now, back when we did the budget, I discussed trying to get some money for crack sealing, and there was discussion of trying to amend the budget to maybe hire a few police officers as soon as we're able towards the end of the year. And we were told that we couldn't, because of us trying to qualify for the bond, we weren't able to change anything. Everything had to stay the same so we could qualify for those bonds. So the fact that we could take the 65,000, does that mean that it's pretty much open business for adjusting the budget to get some things we need, such as police and such as more crack sealing?
Through the chair to Councilman Troyer, this, as I stated, I think last week, the $65,000 change order, that those dollars are will be appropriated from the 2017 sidewalk program. Because of the bids for the 2017 program came in a lot less than forecasted, we'll be able to reallocate dollars within the economic development funds, will increase the contract for the 2016 sidewalk program, and then not have to appropriate as much money for the 2017 program, and therefore we will not have to adjust the current appropriation for the economic development fund.
Okay, that's a good answer. But now, since the bond has already been gone through, are we able to use some of our fund balances in a way we might find appropriate, as far as safety issues and crack sealing in the city? Are we past that point where it's not gonna matter anymore, or it was still a concern?
Through the chair to Councilman Schreier, that's, council's decision to make whether or not you want to make adjustments to the 2017 budget, but we are past the rating presentation with Fitch. That is all complete, and, the bonds have been issued. The city has been paid for the issuance of the bonds, so that process is, for the most part, pretty much complete. We're waiting on just some final expenses to be paid, and then we'll reconcile all the proceeds accordingly, but it's council's decision whether or not you want to adjust the budget throughout the year.
But it will not jeopardize the bond issue?
Through the chair to Councilman Schreier, no.
Thank you.
Councilman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through the floor to our Finance Director, Greg. Greg, I concur with that answer you gave Councilman Schreier. And I would think it's pretty obvious that once that bond rating went through that, okay, now my question to that would be, he's asking to pull money for 3 policemen, to do the tar and feathering on the streets, all of which sort there. When is a good time of the year, in your expert opinion, to start looking into that budget, to do things like that? When's a good time? A quarter part of the year, half part of the year, 3/4 of the part? This is what you do, so that is my question to you.
Through the chair to Councilman Mancini, I think at any point in time, council can review expenditures. I would just note, adding more personnel, whether it's in the police department, service department, fire department, administrative, et cetera, that will just increase the appropriations for the general fund, which then would potentially reduce the amount of money that could be transferred for capital improvements or economic development needs. But you could look at any time to amend the budget. Ideally, the best time, I would say, if you ask me for the best time, I would say, during the budget discussions, it's January through March when we're talking about the budget.
January through March? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Finance Director. Greg, I appreciate that answer, and that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mr.
if
Mayor.
I may add to that, there's no budget, there's no money to budget this year for additional police officers, and I have to caution council members of making statements like that to believe people that there are. If you heard what he said, you're going to have to justify other things, adjust other things in this budget. And you have to do that at the beginning. And if you're talking about 2018 budget, that's something that you can discuss, but I think you should pay attention to what's happening with Ford Motor Company right now. You can smile, but that's how we have to operate this city, and I think you better take a very close look at what's happening with Ford Motor Company and see how sensitive these issues are, because we didn't get here by expanding employee numbers. That's not how we got to this position that we're in. And to fall back into that position for election year promotions is foolish. So I just want to keep everything in mind. Listen to what the finance director really said, and I would like you to all go online or go on cleveland.com and see the reports about what's occurring with Ford Motor Company. And that's what we still is a major part of how we base our budget in the city. So just a word of caution there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone else with questions to the Finance Director? Seeing none, that concludes the items under letter I. We'll move to letter J, which is other communications and petitions and verbal approval and introduction of new legislation. Okay, we have an ordinance being introduced by Mayor Coyne that authorizes the mayor to enter into agreement with the Brook Park Firefighters Association and declaring an emergency. That will be placed into finance. We have a resolution that is honoring Tina Barr. It's introduced by Councilman Scott, honoring Tina Barr for being the 2017 City Citizen of the Year. That will go in the Legislative Committee. And we have a resolution that honors the Polaris Career Center's culinary team This is introduced by Councilwoman Powers and Councilman Troyer. That also will go in the Legislative Committee. Here, did you have any to be introduced tonight?
I have nothing.
Okay. Does council have any other legislation to be introduced from the floor? Okay. Seeing no other, we have one other item that's being introduced, and this one's being introduced under Council Rule 12, which means it'll be placed on first reading tonight. This is an ordinance that's introduced by Mayor Coyne. It's an ordinance approving a lot split of permanent parcel number 341-33-035 and the consolidation with permanent parcel number 341-04-015 and declaring an emergency. This will appear under letter M of the agenda for first reading. It'll be M5, and it'll be ordinance number 10,086-2017. Okay, that concludes the items that are under letter J. We have no items under letter K, which means we'll move to letter L on the agenda, which is remarks from the audience on the ordinances and/or resolutions that pertain to items on the agenda. This would be the time for, if anyone in the audience wants to speak on items that are on the agenda only, they would come up. What we have on the agenda tonight under first reading, we have 5 different items. One is dealing with participation in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of a plow assembly. The second ordinance there we have is for the purchase of a dump body and plow package for a truck. The third ordinance authorizes the City of Brook Park for participation in the purchasing program for a sewer vector truck. The fourth item under first reading is ordinance authorizing a change order for the 2016 sidewalk repair program. And the fifth item is the ordinance that I just read on the lot split. Those are the 5 items that are under first reading. Under second reading, we have 2 ordinances. One is the authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Musco Lighting to deal with the outdoor lighting at Huffsey and Forbes Field. And the second one is authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Endless Pools and radiant heat systems for the installation of those pools. That's on second reading. Those are the 2 items on second reading. On third reading, we have 2 items. One is an ordinance amending the Home Maintenance Assistance Program, and the second item is a resolution that extends the moratorium on the medical marijuana. Those are the items that are on the agenda tonight, so if anyone wants to come to the podium, please give your name and address for the record and talk about one of these items. Thank you.
Good evening. Jack D. Thomas Sr., 15913 Remora Boulevard. I come tonight to once again address the approval of the purchase of the endless pools, which I still contend is not in the best interest of the city. I'm going to be specific in my objections, and I'll divide them between equipment and monetary issues. First, in the meeting on May 2nd, another citizen claimed she was raised with a built-in pool, and I guess that makes her an expert because council bought into every word that she said. Well, most of us weren't privileged enough to be raised with a built-in pool. We depended on public schools and instructors or parents to teach us. It was also stated, well, if you can swim, you'll get used to it. I don't know where the data is to support that statement, but swimming against a current of any kind when you're learning and fearful is the worst thing that you can do to somebody. And to make a statement like that, to me, is just ignorant. I was in that pool just about every day, and I don't remember seeing that particular resident at the pool. Come to think of it, I don't remember seeing any of you in it either.
Oh,
And yet,
Jesus.
if I could finish my sentence, with the exception of Mr. Mancini.
Thank you.
Thank you. The rest to claim that nobody was there, how would you know if you weren't there? Show me the data, show me the numbers that says that nobody was there. You know what? You can't. Just like last year when I tried to point out the false numbers of members for that rec center in that time period, nobody had any data. I do remember Mr. Kayette and Mr. Coyne walking through right before it was closed and it was sparse at that time. But why? Maybe we were tired of coming in and finding the steam or the whirlpool weren't functioning. Perhaps we were tired of begging for simple items to get fixed while we saw new offices being built for the director. We had to purchase our own nets for the water basketball, a few lousy dollars, and install them ourselves because no monies were approved for it. I also remember, and this town is big on support of their military, that the military came in once to twice per month. Mr. Mancini can back me on that, and pretty much took over the entire pool for their workouts, swimming, diving. They were there pretty much the entire morning. We loved having them there. Where did we drive them to? Then there's the issue of how the pools are supposed to be used. I thought the quote from our new councilwoman in the article on Cleveland.com on May 14th summed it up pretty well. Families can swim together in the outdoor pool from May through September, she noted. In all due respect, I don't know where you live, but there is no water in that water park that's deep enough for a family to swim in. And Councilman Scott chimed in with the new pools could accommodate 8 to 12 people at one time. Where are the facts to back this up? Let's look at the real picture. I was going to have some gentlemen stretch out the rope that I brought tonight, 15 feet, 15 feet, 15 feet, and if they'd like to, that's okay. But unfortunately, I've got people that are afraid to stand up and even hold up a rope because of the ramifications that might happen. So that's okay. Just take a picture, 15 by 15, and you tell me how comfortable you'd be standing and swimming in a pool like that. Even a class would be nearly impossible. And speaking of classes, it was also said it would be okay to hold classes to learn how to swim for youngsters in that pool at 51 inches of depth. That's 4 feet 3 inches. You're going to put a toddler in that? It's not a great idea. When we had the old pool, it was 3 feet. They were at the end. That's where they taught the classes. And here's an idea. We swam at one end, and they held aerobics classes at the other. We didn't interfere with each other at all. And there was numbers of people in that pool. An item that nobody has discussed yet is the most important issue, and that's involving its usefulness to multiple groups. I don't have to go any farther than the mayor's own words in his response to me that night when he said he loves the water but he can't swim a lick. I respect that. So let's say he and I show up at the same time. What setting are we going to put the unit on? I know, we have multiple settings, 52 settings, there's 2 propulsions. Okay, now a third person comes in. Now what it's going to be set at? Maybe a fourth. Who's going to determine what that water is set at? What speed that propulsion is at? This is something that we really need to take a closer look at. I also take particular exception to the statement made by the mayor that pools are losers. Show me the proof. Better yet, how much profit does weightlifting sections bring in? How much do we make from people using the treadmills and the ellipticals? Why do these sections not have to face the same constraints that you put on the people who enjoy the water as their choice of exercise? The mayor states that the citizens had the chance to rectify this by creating a new revenue source when asked for one. But since one was not approved, why is the pool the only thing cut? We purchased new workout equipment at a cost of approximately $100,000. Let's look at some more. It's okay for you to council to approve $144,850 to make improvements to our baseball fields, which, by the way, I'm not opposed to. But let's be realistic. Those fields are used 4 to 5 months a year. But you're totally opposed to approving, again, your figures, about $120,000 to restore the existing pool, which can be used for 12 months per year. It was also stated that the roof would need $1 million to rip it off and replace it. And yet in the same sentence, the mayor says the roof to replace the roof, would help to accommodate new courts and gym space. Why we need it, I have no idea. So we will replace the roof for that, but not for the pool. Where's the logic in that thinking? Then there was the answer given that the roof is not leaking over the section where the endless pools are to be installed. Well, how convenient. And yet we are going to build a temporary roof over these new units. I know I'm not naive, I'm not stupid. There are operating costs associated with the pool. But there are maintenance and utility costs with those baseball fields and with the equipment inside the rec center. Why is baseball given a priority? Why weren't we given a choice as to how this newly configured center was going to look? And again, we were given one option and told to take it or leave it. So, no new tax was approved, but we put $100,000 in equipment. We're about to put $148,000 in the fields. No new tax was approved, but we hired an assistant director at the rec center that we never needed before when we had both pools going, and yet 4 years of his salary would pay to restore the pool and for the endless pools. So in closing, here's an option. Reopen the pool, but not the diving section. Install one of the endless pools in the diving section of that huge unused part of the floor beside the existing pool. That would leave the diving section to be utilized in another faction. And finally, when the move of the city offices into the community center is complete, renovate these structures into your multi-purpose rooms to be rented to businesses or leased out to citizens for special occasions. I thank you for your time.
Levain Cates, 15499 Remora. First, I'd like to respond to Jack Thomas's dig at me. I was not privileged because I had a built-in pool, okay? Actually, there are many people in the city who have built-in pools, Mr. Astorino, and, you know, just because I had one does not mean that I was privileged growing up. And as far as not being at the rec in the pool, no, I wasn't in the pool. But my children were at the rec all the time. And to be honest with you, Jack, you living down the street from me, I never saw you at the rec. And my kids were there all the time. All the time. They played all sporting events. I coached over there. And so I was there all the time. And I do want to also bring up that the facts are the facts on the pools. I've spoken about them. I'm not going to sit here and speak on them again because you're either going to believe them or you're not. You know, you people, well, some of you, you don't want to believe the facts. You just want to believe what your, well, you guys are puppets, the puppet master tells you. So, but basically, what Jack, a lot of what Jack is saying is exactly what Kevin Rosala posted online. If you look at it on Facebook, he read it verbatim. Thank you.
Hey, how'd your private conference go with the mayor back there, by the way?
Went really good.
Yeah, I'll bet. Probably told you what to say.
Audience, please.
Oh, really?
Audience, please. Proper decorum is needed by everyone. Does anyone else want to come to the podium to talk about the legislation that's on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing no one coming forward, we will go to letter M, which is introduction of ordinances and resolutions on first reading. Number one on the agenda is ordinance number 10,081-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the City of Brook Park's participation in the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program for the purchase of one plow assembly for a 2018 Western Star 4700 SB truck and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend and properly supported. Discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergia.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Powers.
No.
No.
Troyer. 5-2.
Okay, suspension has not been approved, so ordinance number 10,081-2017 has had its first reading. We'll move to item number 2, which is ordinance number 10,082-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the mayor to enter an agreement with Henderson Products for the purchase of one 2018 dump body and plow package for Western Star truck and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend, properly supported. Is there a discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk please call the roll on suspension.
Bergia.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Troyer.
No.
Powers.
No.
McDonald.
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
5 yes, 2 no.
Ordinance number 10,082-2017 has had its first reading. We'll move to item number 3, which is ordinance number 10,083-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing the City of Brook Park's participation in the State of Ohio Purchasing Program for the purchase of one sewer Vector truck with a trade-in of a 2007 Vector truck and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
Move to amend.
Support.
Mr. Chairman? I don't think you can amend under suspension. I think only under adoption.
We've had this come up before, and we've, I mean, our rules, our council rules say a motion to amend could be made at any time.
And I had the same feeling last time as I have this time. I still don't
And-
think we can amend under.
I understand that, and I'm going to explain why we're going to go forward, because, and it's been explained before, that if an amendment is approved, it sometimes affects the vote on the suspension. Some people, if they get an amendment, they might be more willing to do a suspending of the rules, so it's more efficient to allow, besides the fact that our council rules say a motion to amend is appropriate at any time, it also allows people to make a vote based on what the legislation is actually going to be. So, Councilman, you made a motion to amend. Can you state your amendment, please?
Yes. In section 4, I'm just going to read what it would say because it's just adding a little bit, but section 4 would now say, the money needed for the aforesaid transaction shall be paid from funds thereto appropriated or to be appropriated for said purposes. The total amount of the purchase of said sewer Vector truck is $344,157.91 and to be paid from funds 401 and 429 capital. So what this does is it inserts the cost of the truck as per charter.
Before you put the amendment in. What was it? Can you state the amount again, Councilman?
$344,157.91.
Can I,
Sorry, Mr.
do you mind if I make a comment? Mr. Chairman, that's the purchase price from the vendor, but that sewer Vector will be leased. And in the budget, it was proposed as a six-year lease. So if you take the interest into account, the dollar amount would be a little short of $372,000. So I think I would say an amount not to exceed $372,000. That way we're incorporating the interest along with the purchase price of the sewer Vector.
Okay.
So, Mr. Single, you're saying if there was change where it says purchase of said sewer Vector it says 344 now, you said it should be not to exceed $372,000?
Correct. Yeah, the purchase price of the sewer Vector is $344,157.91. It's in the quote, but since the Vector will be leased, it's leased under a 6-year term, the quote is a $61,969.44 times 6, a little shy of $372,000. What I would like to do is, once this is approved, contact the local financial institutions, see if we can get a lower interest rate, maybe bring that number down a little. But based on the quote, shouldn't exceed $372,000 if we go with Jack Dohany's quote. Mr. Chairman, just to incorporate the interest into the acquisition.
Okay, then the amendment would be, let me read it all again. The money needed for the aforesaid transaction shall be paid from funds theretofore appropriated or to be appropriated for said purposes. The total amount of the purchase of said sewer vac truck
Stop, Mr.
is,
I think what, if you can hold up, I think what Mr. Single's looking for is, rather than, it would just say the total amount not to exceed $372,000. Don't list in of the purchase of said sewer vac truck. Is that correct, Mr. Single? So your amendment would stop and say, for said purposes, the total amount of the purchase is not to exceed $372,000.
okay. So we're taking out of the purchase of said Vector truck?
No, you'd leave it, the total amount of the purchase not to exceed, so you take out of said
Purchase.
sewer Vector truck.
Okay. And then insert not to exceed.
Yes.
Okay, let me read it again. The money needed for the aforesaid transaction shall be paid from funds theretofore appropriated or to be appropriated for said purposes. The total amount of the purchase not to exceed $372,000 and to be paid from funds 401 and 429 capital. That's good? Okay, can I get a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay. Under discussion? Discussion on the amendment? On the amendment, Councilman?
Greg, is that fine? Through the chair. All right, thank you. Thank you, that's it.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? Seeing no other discussion on the amendment, we'll vote on the amendment. Clerk, please call the roll.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergia,
Yes.
Salvatore.
No.
5-1,
6-1.
or 6-1, sorry.
Old habit.
I have to get used to this.
Okay, so the amendment is approved. We're back on the motion. Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair to the service director, Mr. Kayat, is there any rush on this? Currently, our current VAC is working, so we just, whenever this goes through, we'll just trade in that one and get the new one, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It has to be built, so when you approve the funds, then we would give the okay to start building the unit.
Okay, but our current one, our VAC truck is functioning properly, right?
Yeah, we had it out today. We'll have it out tomorrow. It's working.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Mancini?
Thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Chairman. I could go to Lou, but first I'm going to go on, for audience knowledge. On this Vector that we're talking about, there's at least 10 pages of parts and things and warranties, but mostly parts that this comes with. And if I could, through the chair to the service director, Lou, isn't there a lot of training to go with these Vectors? Me personally, I probably did everything down there except really deal with the Vector, to be more than honest with you, but I always remember the guys going to classes for these little complicated.
Through the chair, yes, there's training on operations and there's also training on maintenance.
And if I could ask you this, especially this time of year with the weather being good and getting them things out and cleaning the sewer systems, vacuuming, sucking out the sewers, things of that sort, with a lot of these things that are on here, on this new one that we're going to lease, a lot of these I would imagine, or at least a good part of them, maybe we didn't have on the one that we have now. Do I stand corrected or not?
Through the chair, the new unit's going to have some added features that aren't on the existing unit that we have now.
Okay, but I guess maybe my roundabout question is, anything else would be good for the aging sewer system that we have? This, I don't know, maybe me personally, the sooner the better. I would think, at least on this one, I could definitely go with on the Vector. I know how much it does and what it does, and so you could comment on that if you want, but that's my personal feeling, but go ahead, Mr. Service Director.
Well, council's wishes are to pass the ordinance and get it ordered is, we could wait or we can get it right away. However council feels to do, put this through is fine with me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. We're on suspension, right?
Yes, Bergeron and Scott.
Is there any other discussion on suspension? Councilwoman Powers?
I just had a question about the cost and whether or not we got a quote from more than one company, and how many sewer Vector trucks do we have? How many do we need? And what's the life of one of these trucks?
I think to you, Mr. Director, yes.
Usually a working life of expectancy for what we would use it for, we like to put it around 10 years. We have one now. In the past years, we had two. They didn't have the same type of workings on that the new ones have. I don't know, what you asked a bunch of questions. Is there any more you have? Does that answer your questions?
Well, somewhat, yeah. I just wanted to know how many, and did we get more than one quote for what this would cost?
Yes, we shopped around. It's on state purchasing.
It shows one company
We can't hear.
quotation.
Dan, we need to hear a little louder.
Talking to Mike.
No, I said, the reason I ask is because it only shows one company that gave you a quote.
Done under state purchasing, Councilman. They shop around for the prices.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Kayett.
You're
That's all
welcome.
I have.
Okay, Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. Through the chair of the Service Director, Mr. Kayett, again, I just, on the, Council mentioned that there's a whole bunch of pages of accessories. I think they're calling debris body options. Most of those we're not getting. I mean, according to, if you read it, only a few of these items, not that, there's only a few of these items, maybe 3 or 5% that we're actually getting out of all these pages of accessories, correct?
I don't have the specs in front of me, but we spec'd it out to how we felt the machine would be capable for our usage.
Okay, and it would, what's the benefits of getting this done right away versus a couple weeks to get our proper readings in?
Mr. Chairman, can I speak to that, please? If I may.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor, if you have
Thank
an
you.
answer.
If the councilman's looking for justification for 3 readings, you can find it. As the director said, the earlier we order it, the earlier we get it. So that's what you're looking for. Don't vote to suspend. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council, any other questions on our discussion on suspension?
Mr. President, may I continue, because I was still trying to get
You still had questions?
Yes.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
through the chair to Safety Director. So there are some options on this that enhance our ability to, through the chair, there's Service Director, Mr. Kayett. There are some options on this, on the new truck that the old truck doesn't have, that enhance our ability to clean sewers.
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
That was my question.
Okay,
I'm good.
okay. Any other discussion on suspension?
Yes,
Go ahead, speak
thank you.
into the microphone, please.
Through the chair to Mr. Kayett, it says, the Vector truck that we have right now, you said it's in good working condition, but we just need the new one because this one is 10 years old, so it's kind of like planning ahead before we do have an emergency.
It's a working condition, yes, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mr. Kayett. Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman Mancini?
Through the chair to Lou. No, I don't want to beat this up all night, but is there an enhancement with Yeah, Mr. Troyer said 3 or 5. There's more, and some of them, 1 or 2 of them things could very much enhance the working progress of one of these vehicles. I was down there. I know sometimes if you look at a rubbish truck, they all kind of somewhat look the same, but 1 or 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things could make a big difference. Good example, the rubbish trucks we have now have robotic arms. Okay, that's just one thing. Okay, it used to be me. So, I mean, I don't know where he was going with that, but, I mean, just vote no. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know if we said this would stop the sewer problem if people would vote for it or not. I really don't. Just to vote, I don't know sometimes. And I get that some of the questions are good, but vote no on it. You know, I mean, I know what the Vector does down there, and it's a good vehicle. It's a key vehicle down there. Do I stand corrected on that, Mr. Service Director?
Well, you could say it's like the firemen having a fire truck. It helps their job.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. With that being said, I don't need to be told how to vote. I get the information as best I can, as best I'm given, and I can make my decision. I will be voting yes on suspension on this tonight. I generally would not do that, but since we've been told that there is an extra added, some pieces to this, and it will work better than our current one, and we know we have issues with our sewer systems, I want to get the best equipment out there as soon as possible. So after asking the questions and getting that information, now I feel comfortable voting on suspending the rules. That's how it works. I don't need to be told how to vote. Thank you.
No one's telling you how to vote.
Council, please. Any other discussion on suspension? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
No.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
6-1.
Suspension's been approved.
Motion to adopt.
Support.
Councilman Scott, did you make that motion to adopt? Councilman Bergio, you supported?
Got it.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, there's a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on adoption? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll on adoption.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio.
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,083-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules as amended. We'll move to item number 4, which is ordinance number 10,084-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing a change order for the 2016 sidewalk repair program and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
Suspension passed.
Suspension's been approved.
Motion to adopt.
Support.
Been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on adoption? Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on adoption.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
Adopted.
Ordinance number 10,084 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. We'll move to item number 5 that was added to the agenda tonight. This is the,
We have to change the number on this. I skipped one.
Item 5.
It should be 10,085. Because the last ordinance used was 10,084.
okay,
So we just have to change the number.
okay. All right, this is the one that was added to, under Council Rule 12. It was posted on Friday with the regular posting, so so it does not need to be read in its entirety, which we had to do with some of the ones, since it was posted prior to the meeting. But the clerk informed me that I had assigned it ordinance number 10,086, and she had skipped one, so I need to have a motion to amend to change it to 10,085-2017.
Motion so made.
Support.
Okay, the motion is to amend it. It's been properly supported, amended to 10,085-2017. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Troyer,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay, the amendment has been approved. Chair will entertain a motion to suspend.
I have to read the title first.
Oh, I'm sorry, you, okay. Sorry.
Ordinance number 10,085-2017, introduced by Mayor Coyne, approving a lot split of permanent parcel number 341-33-035 and consolidation with permanent parcel number 341-04-015 and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on suspension? Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on suspension.
Bergio,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Troyer,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Suspension's been approved.
Move to adopt.
Support.
There's been a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Discussion on adoption. Seeing no discussion, clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Troyer,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
Salvatore,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,085-2017 has been adopted under suspension of the rules. That completes the items under letter M. We'll move to letter N, which is second reading of ordinances and resolutions. Number 1 under that section is ordinance number 10,078-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Musco Lighting LLC for the purchase of certain items and installation of an outdoor lighting system without public bidding to be installed at Huffsey and Forbes Fields and declaring an emergency.
Motion to suspend.
Support.
There's been a motion to suspend. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion on suspension? Councilwoman Powers?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just another no-bid contract. And I remember this Musco Lighting is coming to us from Iowa, and I remember the last dealings we had with Iowa, and it took us almost a year to get it completed. And that was our dog truck. So here we are going with this company that is so far away.
Mr. Chairman, could you ask her to speak in
there's
the
no-
microphone?
I have the floor,
I didn't hear
please.
what she said at the beginning of this about Iowa. Could she has to speak into her microphone.
Okay, well, I heard it, Mayor, and all she said was that she remembers another contract that we had with Iowa and had problems, and it dealt with when we
Okay.
purchased the dog truck.
Purchase the what?
The dog truck, the animal control vehicle.
Oh, okay.
How soon we
I'm
forget.
sorry, go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you.
I said how soon we forget. That was only a year or so ago. But yes, we do not need to do this without public bidding. We must get away from this business of just going out there and picking somebody and having no public bidding, and to suspend the rules and pass something the night it's brought up or shortly thereafter. We have not talked about it. We have not discussed the cost, and it's just not an emergency. Thank you, Mr.
Okay.
President. That's all I have.
Any other discussion under suspension? Councilman Scott?
This is the second reading, so I think we have discussed this before, haven't we? I mean, it's the second reading, so it's been discussed, costs have been discussed. So I don't know why this came up that we haven't discussed this, so that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, if council's done.
Is there any other discussion from council on suspension? Seeing no other discussion from council, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much. I don't know what Iowa has to do with the dog truck that relates to this. Musco is the general contractor. They're unique to the system. They installed the system. We had this discussion in our budget hearings that council had over a period of time. We explained to you what had to be done. Musco sought 3 proposals from qualified electrical contractors. They received 2. One refused to make a proposal on it. And they were determined to be, I think it's Jim Miller, the lowest and best bidder to do the work. They installed the system at our park down there. It has to be moved up here. And I think they're especially well qualified to do this work. The cost of this at $180,000, I believe it is, if I remember correctly.
160 just.
160, I'm sorry, whatever it may be, $160,000. Okay, to put new lights on those 2 fields that probably run about $300,000 apiece. So we're utilizing this equipment. What we're trying to do to bring in the line, operational cost is bringing all of our activities up here. That's why we're making the improvements in the Kennedy Park. So from young to the very old, will be playing up here. So that we ask that council would pass this legislation because we think it's been legally processed. We feel it's a legal sole source of professionalism by Musco. And for the work to be done, they did get proposals, and those are presented to council. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, seeing no other discussion on suspension, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Salvatore? Shroyer?
No.
Powers?
No.
McDonald?
Yes.
Mancini?
Yes.
5-2, suspension fails.
Suspension has not been approved, so ordinance number 10,078-2017 has had its second reading. We'll move to item number 2, which is ordinance number 10,079-2017.
Introduced by Mayor Coyne, authorizing and approving the mayor to enter into a contract with Endless Pools and Radiant Heat Systems for the purchase and installation of 2 dual propulsion endless pools and systems without public bidding and declaring an emergency.
Okay, ordinance number 10,079-2017 has had its second reading. That concludes the items under letter N. We'll move to letter O, which is third reading of ordinances and resolutions. First item under there, number 1, is ordinance number 10,073-2017.
Introduced by Council President Astorino, amending ordinance number 9993-2015, entitled Authorizing the Implementation of the Brook Park Home Maintenance Assistance Grant Program, parentheses, HMAP, end of parentheses, and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt.
Support.
There's a motion to adopt. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion under adoption?
I'm sorry, can I take it a step back for 1 sec?
Go ahead.
The ordinance about the pool, is there a reason why we didn't?
There was no motion made to suspend. I gave enough time. And on council, sometimes if you don't hear the motion right away, I give it a little bit of time. No one made a motion to suspend, so it's just had its second reading then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. There's a motion to adopt ordinance number 10,073-2017. Discussion under adoption? Seeing no discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry,
if
Mr.
there's no
Mayor.
other councilman. The administration, I believe all of you received a comment from Mr. Dolan. We believe the legislation should stay intact as is right now because it addresses the problems. So the administration will be asked for a defeat of this ordinance this evening.
Defeat the ordinance?
I got no letter from Mr. Dolan. When was that?
This was sent to Mr. Bergio, Mr. Mancini, Carol Horvath. This was sent on April the 17th. And I've discussed this at the council meetings, that he is reckoning that term number 8 should be removed because it does not treat low-income households fairly.
Just changing.
So defeat it as it is or make that amendment, sure. I just want to make that's the situation. If you take Section 8 out of there, we don't have a problem with it. Okay, if it's not in there, that's fine. I wasn't aware of that.
Just changing the 5 years.
Okay, you got to speak in your microphone.
Yeah. I'm
We're
sorry.
just changing 5 years.
Yeah,
to
so if
7 years.
that amendment has been made,
There's
that,
only two terms that are being amended here, as opposed to the 3 or 4 there.
that's fine.
So that-
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, seeing no other discussion, I'll ask the clerk, please call the roll on adoption.
Troyer,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore. Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini.
Yes.
Ordinance number 10,073-2017 has been adopted. We'll move to item number 2, which is resolution number 10-2017. I will point out to council that the legislation that was in your packet was not the correct legislation. So that on your desk tonight when you came, the correct legislation was provided to you. So we'll move to resolution number 10-2017.
I have the wrong one.
Mr. Chairman, was the correct legislation posted?
No.
Introduced by Councilmember Salvatore, Bergio, Scott, and Mancini, Troyer, Powers, and Council President Astorino, to extend the moratorium on the granting of building permits or certificates of occupancy for any building, structure, use, or change of use that would enable the cultivation, processing, or retail sale of medical marijuana for a period not to exceed 6 months from the effective date of this resolution. In order to allow the city administration, council, and the Brook Park Planning Commission to review applicable Ohio statutes, criminal codes, and the Brook Park zoning code relative to such use and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt.
Support.
Motion to adopt, it's been properly supported. Discussion on adoption. Seeing no discussion, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Troyer,
Yes.
Powers,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Mancini,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes.
Bergio,
Yes.
Salvatore.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Resolution number 10-2017 has been adopted on third reading. That concludes the items that are on the agenda for tonight's meeting. We will move to letter P, which is remarks from the audience on any subject matter. And this is a time where you, if you have comments to make, you would come to the podium. You give your name and address for the record. And because persons other than members of council and city officers are permitted to address council upon introduction by the presiding officer, each citizen must identify himself and his residential address for purposes of public record, and each citizen shall at all times during any regular or special council meeting conduct themselves in a professional manner. They shall not use offensive or threatening language to elected or appointed officials or to the attending public, and they shall comply with the rules of council for 2016-2017. We ask that you address your comments to the chair and that you refer to the elected officials by their titles. Try to avoid names. We ask the speakers to refrain from impugning the motives of the elected officials and to confine your remarks to legislative matters and city business. We ask you to the speakers to please refrain from personal attacks, and any rules not specifically covered by council's rules are determined by referral to Robert's Rules of Orders, and it is not our intention to strictly enforce the rules upon speakers, but order and decorum needs to be followed. If the chair were to ask the speaker to hold their remarks for a point of order or to give information, the speaker is asked to please stop speaking in order to listen to the chair. Time for audience participation. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Joan Markusik. I live at 13911 Bellbrook Drive.
Sorry.
First off, I would like to say I think that the snow road construction is going fabulously. I'm very impressed. It looks like we have people in the city working that know what they're doing. Second, I think I've asked this question like maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 times. I would like to ask the council president, how far in advance does information get out pertaining to what is going to be discussed at the meetings? And I would also like to ask why you have yet to have the council people know information before they get here, and the residents endlessly have to keep hearing the same questions asked over and over. I don't understand why information is not being produced to the council, why they are endlessly asking questions over and over and over and over again, and why us as residents continually have to keep hearing how people who are on council are not informed. I think that that is a very important thing that you, as the president of council, would want to have being done, considering that as president of something, I would definitely want the members of the organization that I am president of to have the information, know about the information, and be informed of every question that they have, if they have a question, before they get to the point of having it read and voted on or having to make a decision on it. Because this continuous questioning over and over and over is getting a little ridiculous in the city. Everybody keeps saying they want to move forward, but yet you are not having your council aware of all of the issues that are being presented. I have heard tonight alone on 3, 4 issues, people have not had proper information, do not recall any discussion on information, and have no idea about any of it that's going on, and they're all in the outskirts of the loop. And I think that as a council, you should be together and know what's going on. And as council president, that I feel, as a resident, I feel that should be your job to make sure that your council has all of the information that they need, so that when we get here as residents and we hear you talk, we are not endlessly hearing our council representatives having no clue about what's going on. Thank you.
Anyone else want to come to the podium to speak?
Elizabeth Sayers, 23065 Cedar Point Road. I just want to thank everybody for...
Can you speak louder, please?
You don't want me to speak louder? I just want to thank everybody for helping and pulling us through with the beautification for the flowers and everything of the gazebo. It's going to happen Saturday at 8 a.m. in the morning. And I just wanted to thank everybody for participating and helping us out. And I have to word this right. But that's all I have to say tonight, and I just wish that we can all get along a little better. And I would appreciate that if anybody has anything to say about our project or about anybody that's in this little project, they can confront me and talk to me. I had some really bad vibes, and I don't appreciate it. We're all adults, and we all need to either work together or keep our mouths shut. And I would really appreciate that you can come to me if you have any questions about anything that's going on with the project, or any questions about me running for mayor. But I would like everybody just to act like adults. And if you got anything to say, I'd highly appreciate it if you say it to my face, and let's all act like adults instead of making little remarks and little comments and approaching me with things that I'm not going to repeat, and I'm not going to put anybody down, and I'm not going to talk about anybody. So like I said, if you got something to say it to my face and act like adults, okay? And let's quit playing all the little games that's been being played. And I hope everybody shows up. You don't have to plant a flower, just show up. So you have a nice day. You're welcome.
Anyone else want to come to the podium for audience participation?
Nobody's gonna bite.
Hang on, I gotta get... Anyone else coming to the podium? Okay, seeing no one else coming to the podium, we'll conclude letter P.
Motion to address the audience.
Support.
There's a motion for council to address the comments from the audience. It's been properly supported. Is there discussion? Councilwoman?
All right, I'm not sure if I'm doing this correctly, but I'm just going to throw it out there.
Oh, no.
We
not
gotta
yet.
vote.
Oh, sorry,
we're on
sorry, sorry.
Discussion on the motion right
Love
now.
your
Sorry.
enthusiasm.
Sorry.
Okay, if there's no other discussion on the motion. We'll call the roll on council addressing the audience remarks. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mancini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, council can now address the comments from the audience.
Okay.
Councilwoman McDonald, go ahead.
In all fairness, joining onto this situation that I'm in, I think what I've noticed the most is that there really is no person in the city of Brook Park who can honestly say who has been at the pool, when and where, every day it's been opened and closed. So having said that, I totally see both sides of this argument, and I don't know if this is the proper place to say this, but I would love to see, and I don't know if this goes under recreation, a committee formed to figure out what the city of Brook Park would like to do with our rec center moving forward. It is sad that we don't have our swimming lessons. It is sad that we can't provide lifeguarding, but we also, on the flip side, have an opportunity to use a facility and create a facility that we want. Statistics, I'm all about the data. We haven't polled our community to ask currently what our community really wants. And that's not, no offense Facebook, through Facebook conversations, but by creating surveys which don't cost money and analyzing what direction we want to go. So I don't know if that would have to be brought up at a caucus meeting or how that would go, but I will figure that out because I understand that. My children, and I'm not going to get into this, grew up using the pool. They did their lessons. My oldest went and got his lifeguard certificate. We are at the pool, and it's just pointless to argue about who is there, when they were there, et cetera, et cetera. We need to come together with this enthusiasm to come up with a plan that we all can be happy with. Is everyone going to be happy with all of the plan? Probably not. But I don't think the residents, at least I feel like they're speaking now, they want to have a say and they want to be part of this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Mancini?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to go to Joan. And Joan, on your, how things should go more or less at the council meeting, Councilman Troyer sometimes tells me I should dress down a little for the caucus because that's when you do and he's absolutely right. That's when you ask the questions. That's when you kind of go at each other. He said, why you come all dressed up? He's right. I probably should dress down a little bit for caucus and be ready, roll up the sleeves and go. At a council meeting, if you ever see the Berea School, and sometimes I recommend that to people. You know, go watch another live stream or cable of another council meeting of another community. Go to the Berea School Board, which is very important because it affects us. We vote on the taxes. So go see how they do it. They run a pretty good meeting. Some are long, they do audience participation. There's some things they do different, but it's pretty educational how they ran a meeting. I was pretty impressed when I represented the council on the school board in 214, 215, how they do things. And it's almost, not that it's staged, and I'm fine using a fine term with that, but they run a really good meeting. Things are running smooth. They know where they got to go at a council meeting. I'm sure back doors over the phone, you know, when they have their discussions, it's a lot different. And it was, you know, actually good to hear. Councilman Bergio, I want to ask you, you said there's 3 positions open?
Yes, 3 this
Three
year, yeah.
positions open.
They're
Good.
staggered.
Yeah, good. You mentioned somebody from Middleburg. Hopefully we get somebody from Brook Park in there. I think that's important. So, Joan, yeah, council meetings, should be a little more, maybe a little speedy, a little more to the, to the point, spot-on meeting. Caucus, little different. I want to go to Jack Thomas. And Jack, I probably would have got 6 points of orders had you not mentioned me on that. Because you know me, Jack, I will speak how I feel, and that's just me, and my heart lies not only in this whole community, but that rec center. But, Jack, there's some things up there, I got to admit, I kind of somewhat agree with you on. I'm going to go with Rachel a little bit, Councilwoman McDonald, that, maybe there should have been a little more input on it. But the problem being there, we went years without people being in there. We weren't using it. And that was maybe the sad thing. It almost breaks my heart to see you come up and you're the only one talking, because I've seen you at the rec center, and there was some points when the mayor says that about the diving pool. That was the only ones really using that, to be honest, were the schools. And that again fell seasonal. That was like a Monday and a Wednesday, and that was only like during the diving season. That was short-lived, and a little of the seniors with the aerobics in there. But that other part of the pool, maybe that could be something. But I do see where he's saying is that at high ceiling, it's a lot of heat. It's a lot of energy going in there. But I still, Jack, I told the seniors 3 weeks, I broke my heart when every time I go by there, every time I look in there, not even the memories, but just wanting to go in there. And I do want to say something, and again, I'll agree with my colleague, Mrs. McDonald. I don't want to beat up who was in there, who wasn't in there. We're past that. But I guess my point is that a lot of times when people go in the water, and I look at 2 of my beautiful senior ladies here, I have 6 here today from my ward, that I think they want to get in there. I think they just want to move their bodies. I think they just want to, most people go into a pool. I got to tell you, I go a little with the Cleveland Fitness and once a month over that Berea rack, and most people don't swim. Most people go in the water, either kids to have fun or they do their therapy, aerobics, or whatever have you. That's fact. You go to any pool and you're going to see that, okay? Even probably Thinking Life Works. It's a therapy place. So that's one of my things. But Jack, in the real world, I see where you're coming. In the real City of Brook Park world, I see where you're coming from. I miss that pool. I'm not going to sit here and lie. And I'll never say never. But I do understand what the mayor's saying. In half, use one for this, use that pool. I just kind of want to get in there and get a little wet is what I want to do. And I don't even know if I'm going to really theoretically swim in there. So maybe down the road I'm looking at it on the other side of my hip, so I might have to use that for a little therapy. So that's just my take on that. So I'm not going to sit here and beat it up. I've spoken enough on that, but I do thank everyone for coming again tonight and coming to that mic. So that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Councilwoman Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to address, yes, what Jack Thomas had to say about the pools, and I have done some research on them, and for another day, if Greg, the finance director, we have the cost here for endless pools for the year. I'd like to know when the big pool was open, what it cost per year. And as far as the endless pools, I decided to go on the internet today and look for endless pools because we were told this is the only one around. Well, there is a list that goes on forever about endless pools. And the very first one that came up said, endless pools, $299 for a huge 15 by 24 pool, including installation. And it comes from blueworldpools.com. And they have a phone number. And then the next ones said, they wanted my whole life history, so I didn't go into the others. But this proves that we do need to have some a little more investigation before we jump off the deep end with a no-bid contract, and by just selecting them however. My kids grew up using that pool. I use the pool for exercise. When I'm going out, as my colleague Rachel said, we need to do some kind of survey. Well, when I'm going out getting my signatures, I ask people, endless pools versus the big pool. Everyone wants the big pool back. They do not think that we should be catering to 4 or 5 people at a time while the rest of the city goes with nothing. The children need a place to learn to swim. And the outdoor pool is, if you're over 3, you're too big to learn to swim in that pool. But we need the big pool back. And the other thing we need is, I have 2 questions I ask them when I go out: endless pools and dog parks. And it's like 20 to 1 that people don't want the dog park. They say it's a nuisance, it's got too many problems attached to it, it's too expensive, and they'd rather have their dog in their own backyard or walk it around the block. And that's where we are with that. But the pools would be great if we could use them, and if it's going to cost us $7,774.32 a year for the 2 pools, I think maybe we could open the big pool for that, and then we would be accommodating any people in this city that want to swim just about any time they want to swim, or exercise, or whatever, just go play and have fun. But when you think that maybe you could get those pools for a whole lot less, yeah, we need to go check into this a little further. And thank you, Jack, for coming up and talking about it. That's all I have, Mr.
Thank you.
Council's all done.
Not done yet.
When they are.
Councilman Troyer?
Thank you, Mr. Council President. I'd just like to address the one issue, because I have an example here of information, and I can't speak for anybody else about not having a clue. I don't know what everybody else has done or whatever, but don't mistake not having a clue with just not having information. And just give me a couple ideas or points of one of the reasons we have 3 readings, and I like 3 readings, is because you're constantly getting more information and thinking about what's coming up, and you come up with questions or answers, and when you're formulating your opinion on how you want to vote. So that's one of the reasons you have 3 readings, is you have time to think about it, talk to other people, and learn how you're going to vote. And just an example of how hard it is to get information sometimes. Now, I don't know why. I'm not going to say that this is being done purposely, at least not out loud. But this information that was given us today, and it was asked for last week about the consumption of energy used to operate the pools, the endless pools. Now, this was asked for last week from the manufacturer, from the salesman that was here. This was received. What happened is that salesman gave it to the administration instead of the person that asked for it. And this was received in a council office May 16th at 6:37 p.m. That's an example of how information is sent around and processed through our system. So, sometimes it's something that didn't come up, that was thought of, from the week before or whatever, and the question is asked. Sometimes, like you saw here tonight, it's about, I'm looking for the reasons to suspend the rules. Because suspension can be a good idea, but it shouldn't be just an everyday occurrence just because you want to make something go through fast. So I just need a reason that suspension should happen, and that's what I got, and I voted to suspend. That's why I was asking the questions. So the reason's there. So again, it's sometimes it's like pulling teeth to get the information, but if I get the information and I feel I can make a good decision, I'll make the decision earlier than usual. But that's all I'm looking for is all the correct information so I can make a decision. Thank you.
Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, let me address the information comment first. The councilman's correct. He got that information this evening. The supplier sent it to us with his calculation of energy usage. He had no idea what our costs were here in Cleveland, Ohio, and with all the different energy providers. So finance spent the whole day determining what that cost was going to be with our usage. And you see it's 0.6 or 11, depending upon what factors were charged. But what was clear was when the gentleman was here, he said it would cost a couple $100s a month per pool, and his equation is pretty close. And we always go on the high side, but it could be between $4,000 and $7,000 for the pool. So again, it's, the information, we're not sitting here. We have to create these things. They don't exist all the time. When they exist, we give it to them. And we present our information at work sessions. But make no mistake about it, every council meeting is a work session. It's a legislation in progress or in process, and council determines how they want to move along with it. So again, you can have 3 readings for the sake of having 3 readings. You can have 3, most of these are housekeeping things, buying equipment, but you can have 3 readings that are purposeful for public decisions, for public input. So it's council's option either way. I'm glad Jack Thomas came up here this evening, and I think he's going to be a candidate again. He was a candidate in the past. And I enjoy his monologues. He reminds me of somebody in the past that used to come up here. And I'm glad that he comes up and gives his opinion. A little lesson you should learn, I've been in this business a long time. I wouldn't attack a fellow voter or a fellow citizen. You have the right to your opinion based on what you think are the facts. And another person, man or woman, may have their opinion, what they think are the facts. And let me tell you what I have to deal with, and I appreciate the new council member said we should kick this around with the committee. I know more about the rec center than probably anybody and the mistakes that were made in that building. And let me show you what you're looking about here. First of all, you will have no pool opportunities if you don't put in the endless pools. And we checked them out, and we found out that it meets our needs. They're a sole source because of their dual propulsion and the things that they can do, and they can adjust to just about anything. And I can imagine we could schedule that for individuals just like we do our exercise bikes or other things. It's the nature of the beast. I heard all these things about the steam and the whirlpool. This is part of creating the spa atmosphere for exercise. More and more people in the age group that we're going to be addressing is the very young, and folks like me progressing along in the world. And I think that does it. The thing that I agree with Jack, that he pointed out very clearly, the pool people want their pool. The baseball people want their baseball fields. The folks want their bocce courts. Everybody wants something. People want more policemen. They want more firemen. The policemen and firemen want new facilities working because what they work in is not very good. Everybody wants everything, but nobody wants to come up with a solution to how you pay for it. And the challenge of the last thing, when I ran for office as the mayor of this city, I addressed it very clearly. I didn't have to walk in here to tell you what the problems were. I knew what they were. And I provided a solution to those problems. The easy one, give me more money. Guess what? Those citizens defeated the senior and the recreation levy higher than anything I've ever seen in this city. They destroyed it. They say, listen, we're not paying for that. You know why? Because we never have. We never have. So, it could have been easy for me to just close that building, and common sense, from an economic standpoint, that's what should have happened. I didn't do that. I went and found renters. I went and found a way that we could finance the improvements over there, and absent the state legislation that was properly and legally provided for people to respond to that legislation about this no-bid stuff that people are talking about is a lie. It's not factual. Everything was done properly, and so therefore, under the auspices of that law, with no charge to the people of this city, we're making improvements to the rec center. Was it designed poorly? Yes. And let's get to the pool specifically. Most people in this town do not know As I said at the last meeting, I've said at subsequent hearings on this, that building was built with no pool in it whatsoever. So you had an existing wood roof on there. During my time, I was convinced, I think Guido might have put a roof on it. I was convinced that Goodyear came up with a problem. It was like a big, huge 23,000 square foot mud flap. You flop it on there, it solves all the problems. Didn't work. We had condensation still building in there. It leaked. Mayor Elliott came along. We didn't even know when we had it analyzed that there was a metal roof put on top of that. It still leaks. So, in doing an infrared analysis of the total building, just the roof over that portion of the pool cost over $800,000. That's to rip off the exterior and put a new roof on. Not even dealing with the existing interior wood of that building. It makes no financial sense now or in the future to expend that money on an over-designed facility that was designed for swim meets. We exhausted from the YMCA to every private group is to go out there, come in and lease our pool, come in and do this. The Y even looked at taking over our whole facility and operating it, looked at the numbers and said, can't make it work. Cannot make it work. I was criticized when I leased out the building, took us in $40,000, $50,000 a year to keep us going. So let's look at the cost. Say it is $7,000 a year. Say it is to operate these two pools that will give people exercise. It can facilitate many of the things that you claim that it can't. And I see the cartoons by the cardboard or the keyboard cowards out there. I will debate these issues with anybody publicly in this town about the merits of what we're proposing to do. So even if it does, in total, it costs $240,000 a year to put the pools in, to put the roof in, to do everything to secure this facility so our citizens will have this opportunity. It'll cost about $41,000 if we staff it. We're not required to staff it under law, but if we do, about 40 grand. Let's look at the old pool. The cost that we've avoided between utilities and staffing averages between $140,000 and $180,000 a year since we closed that pool. It's a lot of money. Money we cannot afford. Again, what is our choice? You want to take the roof off the pool? How are you going to pay for it? You want to open that pool again? How are you going to pay for it? My God, the road up to the rec center and the police station, I don't know where people are walking, but that's what they're telling me. Fix the roads. Now, I've been painfully honest with everyone in this community for the last 4 years that I have been here, and I'm not going to change. I don't see any resolution to these problems for folks that doesn't involve the expenditures of money. Either you get more or you make choices. And that's what this administration has done. With all due respect to the new councilwoman, committees study things to death. And I always, we're going to have a master plan. My business was strategic planning when I was in the private sector, a strategy to solve problems, not a plan that hangs on the wall, not another committee that looks at it. You put a committee together, this will not get done. We mailed and we code-redded our membership to get them to the rec center, telling them, you need to come to this meeting, we need to have your input. I think, Marianne, there was about 400 people there. Sure, if you said, hey, would you rather have a big pool or a little pool? I'll take the big one. Good. How are you going to pay for it? And what are you going to choose to make that work? How are you going to make it work logistically? Our schools now are closing schools and consolidating. We even made the argument, why are you partnering with Baldwin Wallace? Why don't you take this pool right here that's tailor-made for you with stands and everything else and go partnership with us and turf our fields and relight our fields and we'll be your partners. Didn't even consider it. Wouldn't even consider it. So we have exhausted everything that I'm aware of to provide what we think is needed to a community like Brook Park. The children are not here. They're coming. They're coming. We're getting folks here. Our property values are going up, our foreclosures are down, we're getting them. How can we provide the menu of amenities that will make them want to live in our town? And that's what this does. Folks are just against things to be against them. They'll do simple referrals. I can tell you this, there's two things, and I've been walking too. And there's two things that they're very concerned about. They see the new people that have the new streets are very, very pleased. The other ones want them. People want resolutions to the flooding, no matter how much we've done. And there's going to have to be creative resolutions we have to do or have to attain to take care of some of these problems. And I got to tell you, Jan, I don't know where you're going, but every house I go to has at least one dog. And they're excited about the dog park. And you haven't even taken the interest to find out what it's all about before you criticize it. Because again, this is something folks want. This is all part of a menu that needs to be offered to our citizens. So council has to go forward and make decisions. It's our job to present resolutions to problems. That's what we will continue to do, the best that we can, and move the city forward. So again, I appreciate everyone's criticism. I don't take it as an attack. I guess I'm used to it. But the reality is, you can get up at that microphone and you could say you want all these things, and everybody want them. I think we're providing everything in a different way. And I keep saying this, and at some point, the old gentleman I read all the time is Mr. Eberhardt on the Facebook page, and he keeps asking the same question that I asked from the same day that I came back here. At some point in time, the political courage has to be developed to go to the people and ask them a very honest question. What kind of city do you want to live in? And what are you willing to pay? And ironically, you've had politicians in this town right now. This city should have a 2.5% city income tax. And it wouldn't cost 80% of the people of this town one dime. Not one single dime. And that is a crime. But because of the other issues that we have here in this deliberative body, this legislative body, to bring that before the people would be certain failure when they have doubts about their leadership up here. So the same things I'm saying to you tonight, I'm willing, you, Mr. Thomas, or any other candidate that runs for office, to debate these issues in our proposal and our budget with anyone. Again, I think we've provided for all the choices that people want, not to the demand that they may want them, not at the expense of one group over another, and that's what I'm charged with doing as the mayor, irrespective of what everybody else thinks or likes. And I'm not going to change the way I operate, because I would argue that it's been the most successful way to operate this city in its modern history. Thank you.
Okay. The question was asked to me about how far in advance is info provided. The council president works with the clerk on Friday to put the agenda together that provides all of the information that is provided to the council people. So on a meeting that we have on Tuesday, the council is provided with the information package of everything that's going to be on the Tuesday night meeting. I will say that I try to provide, if I'm able to find any information, I share it with all members of council. I probably drive Mr. Single crazy with the questions I ask him, because he's telling me on occasion that he's got other work to do and he can't just always respond to me, but he does the best he can, and I'm as patient as I can, because I realize it takes a while to get the information sometimes. We do that, but each one of these council members also is independently elected, so they don't need to rely on me for information. They can go out and get it. To sit there and say, I'm president of council, I should be providing information to them. I don't control these members of council. They're independently elected. They run their own council seat. It's not my job to babysit them. They don't want me to babysit them either. They want to do what they want to do for the position that they were elected for. So we provide the information on Friday that is required for them to have. Any other information that I'm able to obtain, I provide that to all members of council and forward them anything that I've gathered. So that I hope answers the question that was asked of me of how far in advance is info provided. If council people ask the administration, or they ask the manufacturers, or they make phone calls, That's up to them, and I can't control them getting that information. That's their role as a council person to do. So I don't feel that I've been any neglect of duty or anything like that on providing information, because they're always provided the information that they're given. If any of the council people feel as I'm withholding information, please feel free to contact me. I just live down the street. You can pull in my driveway anytime. Anytime you see my truck in the driveway, pull on in, I'm home. Okay, thank you. I appreciate the time to address the question that was asked of me. Council, I'd like
Motion to
to take a
adjourn.
motion to
Support.
adjourn. Motion to adjourn, properly supported. Clerk, please call the roll on adjournment.
Salvatore?
Yes.
Vincini?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Powers?
Yes.
Troyer?
Yes.
Bergio?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
This meeting is now adjourned at 9:07 PM. Thank you very much.
You got the blue shirt memo today, huh? You got the blue shirt memo?